Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 496 inside the final five as we make our way up to Expedition number 500. And I've been going, on a bit of a nostalgia tour here as expeditions are being sunset and sent onto the netherworld, and I've been trying to pick up on some of the more nostalgic archetypes that have been around for a while, and then some of the archetypes that I really love and enjoy. And as everyone knows, I do love being really aggressive and getting in there and attacking, and I'm a big fan of this LeBlanc archetype. And so that's who we're going to be doing battle with today. We'll get her pulled up on the site real quick, talk about this archetype a little bit more. And so, yeah, like the thing that we tend to see quite a bit out of Noxus these days is the champion's not just like super mattering and just trying to maximize whatever you can do with Reforge, and so that tends to lend itself into like, hey, how do I play quick attack challengers? And this is a deck to where it's kind of in the same boat, right? There's not a ton of difference between playing LeBlanc and playing Riven and playing Draven, whatever the aggressive Noxus champion of choice is for you. But I think out of all of those, LeBlanc tends to be the strongest. And so we'll try to find a way to just do, a little bit more than just attacking. I do, of course, love these archetypes to where we're just out here slamming Legion rearguards. This does have a bit of the 5 attack matters themes attached to it. You're going to find things like Thorn of the Rose, Trifarian Hopeful, and then Trifarian Glory Seeker down here in the rare space. So we have a lot of ways to hit reputations. We have a lot of ways to hit 5 attack matters for the likes of something like Reckoning. And so there is, a couple of things I like to push forth with this. As we have the Trifarian Glory Seeker lit up here, finding quick attack challenges is one of the kind of premier ways to just get super far ahead with Noxus. And so we'll look for ways to give the Glory Seeker Challenger, give her quick attack that's easiest with the Reforges. We would love to be able to do the same with LeBlanc. And so if we find ourselves paired with Sherima, that's where we're going to get, kind of maximum value out of LeBlanc. We can find some of the reputation cards from the Sivir archetypes. We can find some of the vulnerable cards from the Nasus and from the Renekton archetypes, and it just kind of ties everything together in terms of LeBlanc. Not easy to find here. We're in Brutality, which pairs off with Kindred, so we aren't guaranteed to see Sharma in the second pack, but those are the kind of like common core ways to make your LeBlanc strong, are Reputation, 5 attack matters, and vulnerables. But otherwise, you can find some pretty strong pairings with these archetypes. If you find yourself with Noxus, there's the likes of the Yetis and the Frostbites there. If you find yourself with Demacia, you have lots of ways to just get really, really powerful early game units. And so we'll see what we can do. This is, a pretty strong archetype all on its own. It has a little bit of everything that we're looking for. Has the great early game aggression here with something like Legion Rearguard. Has the more powerful 3-cost units with things like the Trifarian and the Thorn of the Rose. Has the late game and the Armored Tusk Raider and the Savage Reckoner. Has the good removal and the Whirling Death and the Calling Strike. It just has, a little bit of everything, right? It has good early game, good mid game, good late game, good interactivity. This archetype just kind of does it all. And so happy to get this start here. And let's see what turns up in the second pack. And so, interesting set of choices here. I don't like jumping into Shadow Isles. The Brutality Kindred is a strong archetype, but for a lot of different reasons. The Brutality Kindred has 4 commons in it, one of which is Arachnoid Horror, and it really lends itself to drafting a super fearsome heavy deck. And that's just not what we're going to be trying to pull off today. We're not going to have any combat combos out of there. Shadow Isles is horrible at making good combats, and so I think we'll just ignore Vigio here. And so that brings us down here to this Fizz or to the Anivia. And, it is a pretty powerful Fizz, right? As he starts with the Conchologist. Purpleberry Shake's not super strong, but, it is a very strong early game collection of cards. And then the only downside is, if we're looking to make big combos with LeBlanc, we're not going to find them here, right? There's no vulnerables coming out of Bandle City. There's no no ways to give our units quick attack. It just doesn't really play to the themes. But if we come over here to this Anivia, it does start off with some of the stuff we would be interested in doing, right? If we're trying to do 5 attack matters, then we have access to the Yetis. If we're trying to find some vulnerables, we have it here with Caught in the Cold. It doesn't make, the quick attack as necessary, but we do have ways to get vulnerables, and then Anivia is a reasonable late game play. And so I'm looking more towards the Ancient Evil here than towards the Fizz, and we'll pull this up and talk about it just a little bit more. And so I don't think this is a super strong archetype in terms of what we're looking for, but it does have some of these key factors to it, right? It has the Yetis, so we're going to see the Avarosian Trapper and the Yeti Yearling, and then it does put us in Freylord as to where, if we think more along the lines of Blood on the Ice, this is what this archetype would be looking to do. If you have the Blood on the Ice Ash, you're going to have the Trappers and the Yetis out here making 5-cost units. You have all of the Frostbites coming from the likes of Brittle Steel. And then if you go down here to the Darius half, you find cards like Noxcria Arena, which works with the Frostbites. You find cards like Trifarian Assessor, which works with your 5 attack units. And so those are kind of like the similar things that we're going to be trying to pull off here. But I think what will more realistically land on doing is just playing a really aggressive Noxus deck that closes with big overwhelms. That's kind of one of the more standard Noxus / Freylord strategies, and likely what we'll try to pull off here. And so there are some cards that play, nicely to these themes. We've of course mentioned all the Yetis. Brittle Steel is one of the fantastic early combat tricks, and then having the likes of these big epics up here like Feel the Rush and the Howling Abyss can give us some, really powerful late game without having to fill it with actual units. And so not the perfect combo, but it should be strong and powerful with what we're trying to pull off. Okay, so interesting set here. I'm leaning more towards just the Thorn of the Rose, Whirling Death. Good to go ahead and pick up a bit of interactivity. The Lonely Poro is fine, but it's just like a little bit off theme. And I don't want a big stack of Caught in the Cold. It's like I'm happy with 1 copy. I won't be upset if we have 2. But I don't really want to go out of my way to find a bunch of these. I would prefer this be like, oh, cool, we have an Avarosian Marksman, and it happens to be paired with Caught in the Cold. I don't want to be like, oh, boy, here's Caught in the Cold that happens to be paired with Lonely Poro. Like, it's a little bit different feeling, right? We have a good card paired with the Caught in the Cold, where we have a Caught in the Cold paired with an off-theme card. And so we'll stay away from that Freylord set there and just pick up the Whirling Death stack out of these. Okay, so interesting here, and the Basilisk Rider. And so we can look to just be an Allegiance deck and really limit ourselves in the Freylord, which I'm completely fine with, right? We aren't like super likely to be picking up a ton of Yetis, and the themes we're looking for are going to be a bit high rolly. And so I'm fine with the Basilisk Rider. This is at least one of these units to where if the archetype doesn't pan out, he's still like okay. A 4/3 isn't fantastic, but he's not like we're playing a 2/3 for 4 mana or something. He still has reasonable stats in the event that this doesn't come together. Okay, man, how many Thorn of the Roses are we going to get today? We're already getting up to 4. And so, interesting, like, I'm fairly feeling, like, good about abandoning this Yeti theme. Like, I don't want to be stacking Tall Tales. I usually like to have, like, 2 or 3 Yetis before I start including the Tall Tales into our deck. So hopefully we can just, like, trade away the one that we have. If we're going to be picking the Thorn of the Rose, I want the one with the House Spider. I'm not the hugest fan of Elixir of Wrath. As we see cards like House Spider, I prefer to try and find stuff like Brothers Bond, as to where we're having like a go wide strategy. We win 1 combat and then chunk in some extra damage, or we win a combat and then boost a LeBlanc permanently or something. Like the Brothers Bond tends to play a lot better than the likes of something like Elixir of Wrath. Okay, and so interesting set. I'm interested in something like Ruthless Raider, and I don't want to just like pigeonhole ourselves into being mono Noxus because we have 1 Basilisk Rider, but like the Avarosian Sentry is not super on theme here. And so I'm happy to pick up Armored Tusk Raiders. This is kind of our premier late game. And so do we want the one with the Brutal Hunter or the one with the Reckless Trifarian? And I want to go with the Trifarians here. I want to push a little bit of this 5 attack matters / reputation theme. I mean, we already have a ton of this style of unit in Thorn of the Rose, but I'd like to add in, a little bit more. Okay, and so here I'm kind of interested in this Trapper. It is an all-around pretty powerful unit. It can be, a little bit awkward in terms of, if we play an Avarosian Trapper on 3, we put that Yeti in our top 3. Say we miss it on our next draw, and then we want to play the Basilisk Rider. Then we're just coin flipping to hit the Allegiance, right? Well, it's worse than coin flipping, right? There's just a 50% chance we're gonna miss. 50% of the time it fails 100% of the time, and it gets a little bit awkward with this thing. But the Trappers are incredibly powerful in these type of decks, and I think I'm willing to just roll the dice with it a little bit, as we're not missing out on too much. Right? I don't want Thorned Blade. The Brutal Hunters are kind of whatever. Savage Reckoner is a good closer, but we're only like halfway through the draft, and we can find another expensive. Wrathful Rider is pretty meh if we're not playing Reforges, and so I'm pretty happy with the Trapper in those terms, and we're still like underneath the kind of like ceiling of off-faction cards I'm cool with, right? I usually like to cut it off at about 6, and so if we do want to, really focus on the Allegiance, I'm not too upset with where that card takes us. All right, this is nice here, is having the Blood on the Ice start to turn up in the picks. I'm kind of hoping that this will turn up the rest of the way, and that'll give us kind of like double packs to find Yetis in. And so this is quite powerful. That's the one I'm going to go with to try and force the packs into our way. Otherwise, I would like Three Sisters. This is the strongest card out of the 6, but Succumb to the Cold is pretty garbage. And then we've already got 4 Thorn of the Roses. Making a 5th one into our deck isn't really what we're looking to do. Okay, wow. Well, interesting. The Basilisk Rider and the Reckoning are incredibly powerful. This is what I'm going to go with here. Picking up the second Allegiance, I'm going to be like a little more focused on staying away from Freylord. And so if something turns up like Howling Abyss or Field Rush or whatever along those lines, I'll gladly take it. But I think at this point I'm willing enough to just give up on the Freylord as much as we can. All right, so yeah, these cards aren't what we're looking for. If we didn't just pick up a second Allegiance card, I would be pretty happy with this Stalking Wolf Alpha Wildclaw. I mean, I guess we still could just kind of roll the dice with it. I mean, the Auroch Glinttorn isn't that strong. The Imperial Demolitionist we don't have combos with. And how hard do we want to like roll the dice here? Because I think at the end of the day, we can still just hopefully trade away like 2 or 3 of these Freylord cards and then still just have some of this power in here. All right, boys, let's roll the dice as we pick up a Basilisk Rider number 3. Okay, we're going to have to swing back around and clean up a bit of this Freylord. Now that we have 3 copies, we have to be serious about it. But here, Legion Rearguard Brutal Hunters, completely fine. Strong collection of early game plays. Coming with these, I'm going to go... Oh, that's a hunt the week. I was like, okay, well, I need to pick up this Weapon Hilt. Our interactivity is pretty bad at this point. Right, we have a Caught in the Cold, a Shatter that's pretty off theme, a Tall Tales taking up one of those spell spaces, and so our only like real interactivity here is the one Whirling Death and then all of the Guiles we get off Thorn of the Rose. And so I was really interested in picking up Weapon Hilt, but Hunt the Week is just so bad that I'm going to pick up the good early game units and avoid it. Here, a little bit better. Sigil of Malice is a reputation card we should get to play on the cheap. Thorned Blade has its uses. It's a decent game closer. I would prefer to have other cards, like something like Might. If we're playing expensive combat tricks, Might lets us like send a Yeti through or send a LeBlanc through for a bunch of damage. To whereas Thorned Blade does work with some of this top end, right? It works with Alpha Wildclaw and the Tusk Raider and the Reckoner, but it's a little expensive, and I'm not the hugest fan of it. Okay, so here, let's get rid of this Tall Tales, right? This is like the most dead card we have. I would prefer to be trading the Poro for the Trifarian Hopeful, but the Tall Tales is just super off theme here. Okay, so you all know what time it is. We do have to go and turn something premium. Let's take a peek at what lives out here, see what's available. It's not going to be much. Not going to be much. So let's see. Faces of the Old One, not in our deck. We're going to have a bunch of Guiles today, just not with the physical card. Don't have any of these. Off to the rares it is. Got anything cool in here? Trifarian Assessor would be cool, but we don't have it in our deck. Oh man, are we making our way up to epics today? Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, we got a Caught in the Cold to save the day. Alright, Caught in the Cold. Anything else cool in here? I can't remember. We didn't find any Whispered Words. Entomb's not here. Alright, Caught in the Cold. You have become premium. So yeah, I mean, I've mentioned this a few times before. I worry about, cards like Caught in the Cold as, it's not constructed playable. It's not a real flashy one, and I'm worried about the number of people that'll be turning it premium in the future. But it does remind me of something. I was, perusing the Reddit the other day, and something about Expedition popped up, and so like people kept saying it allows them to quit printing Expedition only cards. With Expedition leaving the game, they don't have to play cards that are intended for Expedition or Expedition only. And it's just like, you all are fucking idiots, That's like, do you really think 100% of the cards that Riot prints are going to be constructed viable? No, that's not the way it works. Like, I know I've mentioned a bunch of times that, here, do we want to trade for the Crackshot Corsair? I think we might as well. Let's trade out with the Snapper. But like there was a thing from Magic people that essentially said only 30% of the cards are ever played in any given format, and so even when you look at something like Vintage and then comparing it up to something like Standard, it's only ever 30% of the cards that are going to be played, and so it is kind of nice that there are a place to find a home for, a card like Brutal Hunter. This is never going to see play in Constructed. Do you really want this to be like a 3-cost card so it would be constructed viable? And then if we're going to, start editing cards like this down to constructed viability, then it's just like the sliding scale of quality starts to change, right? And so if the Brutal Hunter is now a 3/3 challenger for 3, then say something like a Trifarian, the Reckless Trifarian is probably just not as playable. And so if he's not as playable, we have to make him cost 2 now. And so like at what point do we stop editing these cards to try and make them constructed viable? And so it is kind of nice that there are cards that were kind of focused towards Expedition, as we would see things like the there was like the Reputation unit, like the 4-mana 6/4 that was at one point a 6-mana or a 4-mana 6/3. They upgraded it to be a little bit more Expedition friendly. It's a card that's never going to see play in Constructed, but it's nice that it can find a home. Like I don't really understand what people's expectations are now that Expedition is gone and they don't have to print cards that are centered on Expedition. There's just tons of cards you're never going to play, and so that's what was getting me a little sad about Caught in the Cold. Is it's a card that's never going to see play in Constructed, but it is an extremely viable card out here in Expedition. So sad to see it go. But I feel like this is a fairly straightforward line here. I was going to hook whatever his best unit was with the Brutal Hunter. If he managed to play like a 4/4 or something, then we would just hook the 3/2 and then still attack with everything. It's not quite the time for the Basilisk Rider. His time will be next turn. We're going to get a pretty good curve space now to where we can play the Basilisk Rider, bank up the 2 mana, play the Tusk Raider next turn, and then Caught in the Cold something. We'll have a Guile lined up, I guess, but that's not too upsetting. There we go, it's Rod for Noxus. And Pike. Sure. That is a very non-intimidating Pike. Sure. Did you hit? You hit. Alright, 3 damage down. You did it. Interesting in LeBlanc. Would we rather play LeBlanc and the Trifarian? I think we'll chunk in more damage this way, right? If we're going to, say, hook Pike with our Brutal Hunter, we're going to try and hook the Thorn of the Rose with a 1/1. Say he plays, like a 4/4 for 4 or something here, then the Tusk Raider is only going to get in for 2, but this way, if he blocks one of our 5 attackers, we're still getting in for 5. I think this is a pretty good deal. Boomed it. He knew the Trifarian was too much. Okay, so yeah, let's come in here and pick up more LeBlancs. I'm not opposed to picking up an additional champion, but I think LeBlanc is she's gonna be our friend today. She's where it's at. We're gonna focus on her. This Darius may fit a little bit more of what our deck needs. I would kind of like one more expensive bro. But we can probably just pick that up along the way. Let's go with the LeBlanc here. Alright, but yeah, the bitching on Reddit. It's always something. I know I've fallen victim to it here recently as well. It's always a kind of like frustrating moment for me to kind of switch between the formats and not being super familiar with constructed coming out of displaying expeditions all the time. It was a little rough making the switch, and try to try to keep that to a minimum. There's always going to be an incredible amount of bitching going on out there, and so I'll let the others do it and try to keep it to a minimum. But reasonable start here. Nice 2-3 curve. Not not finding a 1-drop is okay. We'd probably just kill it with the Demolitionist anyways. Alright, 2-3. War Mason reporting for duty. What was this? Nar and LeBlanc? Sure. Everybody's playing LeBlanc today. Ours is premium. That's what's going to take us over the edge. Opponent's not playing premium LeBlancs. They're about to suffer. Ew, gross. Okay. At the end of the day, it's not horrible, right? We basically traded 2 cards and 5 mana for 2 cards and 6 mana. But it always stings a little bit to lose your champion. But I think we'll be okay. We have the Basilisk Rider ready to come down now, and we can have a LeBlanc play ready for next turn, whether or not that's using the Whirling Death or getting a Shatter onto something. And we missed. That's about right. That's about right. What could we be hitting? We have already drawn the Shatter. It could be Caught in the Cold, Lonely Poro, Stalking Wolf. None of these are particularly appealing. But okay. Generating some values even if we miss the Allegiance. Stalking Wolf. He's kind of interesting here. We might find ourselves wanting to get a challenge with this. I doubt it, but we might. Preferring to see opponent like tap out for a 5-drop we can easily take down. Can't easily take down the Climber, but I think this is okay. I'm just going to bank the mana going into the next turn. Okay. Because as it stands right now, we still have a pretty good block with the Basilisk Rider on the Climber. And now we can get set up with our Anivias and our Alpha Wild Claws and our Reckonings, depending on what opponent turns up here. This is pretty powerful against Bandle City, but it doesn't seem like he's doing a lot of Bandle City things. Not a lot of width coming together from this deck. Alright, here's the big boys. What you got? Poor LeBlanc today. She's struggling. It's one of the weaker things. It's actually a little bit stronger these days than that. Kind of the bane of LeBlanc for the longest time was the Brittle Steel. Right? You don't see as many of those now that there's the full 10 factions as opposed to just like, well, there could have been like, well, I guess she came out in the Sharma set, so there would have only been 9 then, but I think still kind of applies. More archetypes and everything out there, diluting the number of Brittle Steels. It's like, I wish we had that point of mana back now. This would be a choice board to drop a Reckoning on, but it's okay. He's out of mana. We'll get to hook one Legion Marauder down. We can shatter another one. Then the rest of our attacks are looking pretty good. Where's LeBlanc stand in this? She needs to see a 5 hit before she flips. So, we'll just hit with you first. Do one of these. I'm gonna do one of these. This is not vulnerable him? What am I missing? Oh, that was a shatter. Oh, okay. Well then. Whoops. We'll give that a little whoops. I thought that was a caught in the cold. That was a shatter. Huh. I was sitting here trying to move the unit and nothing was happening. Whoops. Still good enough for the concession. Oh man. That's one of those things when, you know, it gets tough doing the content creation stuff. I've gotten, you know, I don't want to say better at it, but stronger at it than I was initially. And it's tough, you know, like one of the things is you just got to sit there and just like talk. You can't have like 30-second and 60-second just like gaps and like words coming out of your mouth. And so, you know, if you want to give it a taste, to just play like an expedition where you just have to talk about fucking something the whole time. And then hopefully you'll make a play like that along the way, as to where you shatter something when you think it's a caught in the cold, and then you have to determine if you still if you still feel worthy to even be generating content, and then if that's something that you want the world to see. I'm over it, but it's crazy how that comes together. But we've learned our lesson. We won't be doing that again. So wow, I was in there, it's dragging the unit down. Well, why the fuck won't this block? But alright, here comes the scrap heap. Draven, Echo, and Jinx. Have to assume that we're going to be up against another aggro deck of sorts. I'm not like amped about the Trifarian or the Reckless Trifarian, but we're on the odd attack, so he should be okay here. It's just like if we're going to be slamming a bunch of units back and forth, I kind of prefer to have something more on the interactive end of the spectrum. But he's not dropping one, so I feel pretty safe now. Okay, this one in hand is caught in the cold. We'll stop, we'll look at it, we'll enlarge it and read it. Says caught in the cold. Got it. Oh, noes. Not what I was hoping to see. It's very dangerous going about it this way. Like, we don't have tons of ways to just come out and interact with this, but just throwing him down like this is a risky proposition. So we're going to have to try and take care of this thing. We're going to play the House Spider. This is not like a complete disaster if he has a second one, but I want to be able to get this one off of the board. Yeah. So it's like we do at least get to start with the 2-for-1, right? He's invested 2 Sumpworks Posses into the board. We should hopefully be able to take one down. If he has like a Mystic Shot or he just drew a gotcha this turn, then we're going to lose the game. But we do at least have like a brief moment here where we can get ahead. Especially nice seeing him not add units to the board. Oh. Alright. Oh, man. He's intending to blast us next turn. We're going to be a little bit too slow off the gun to do the Thorn of the Rose, but he 100% has another Sump Worker in hand. Like, that's why he's putting the 1 damage on the House Spider. Mm-hmm. Fucking A. Alright, so we just got to deal as much damage as we can. So let's get the Reckless Trifarian down. Next turn, we're going to be playing Thorn of the Rose. It's pretty terrible having to Thorn of the Rose into drop order, though. Yep. Just make some sad noises. Our deck just doesn't have the interactivity to deal with these Sumpworks Posses. We always talk about this being a really, really polarized deck in terms of to where you might see your, let's say all of the good decks in the format, all of the tier 2 decks have like a 55% win rate. And I consider this up to be like a tier 2 deck. I don't think it's tier 1, but it's pretty good. But like for the most part, that's going to be some like 50-50 matchups and some 60-40 matchups. But when you have a deck like the Sumpworks Posse deck, it's a bunch of like 80-20s and 20-80s to get yourself down to that 50%. Like this deck gets annihilated by decks with challengers, it gets annihilated by decks that have basically any kind of interactivity, but they really prey on decks like the one we're playing here today, as to where we have like 2 challengers and 1 removal spell, and that's the extent of what we have to try and take these things down. And so, I mean, it's certainly a winnable matchup. It's like the way that we always recommend playing the Sumpworker deck is you can't risk it like the opponent did here, right? He on turn 2 played the Sumpworks Posse with us having the full amount of mana, and that was to get in 1 point of damage on an attack. Now, like, how would this game look if he played the Sumpworks Posse and then it came into our turn and we just played the Stalking Wolf, and then we took the first Sumpworks Posse off the board with the Stalking Wolf, and then he was going to have to build in to the second one, and that would have just crippled everything that he was doing. And so we'd kind of made mention in the previous video into running into these spaces to where you see your opponent make questionable plays, and you just kind of have to deal with it. It's like we have to thank him for giving us the opportunity, but it didn't pay off for us that time, and that's kind of what we run into here. All right, let's see if we can't clear out some of this board. We may find ourselves in a space to where we can Whirling Death down this Posse next turn and not just die to the elusiveness, but we're struggling here. That's for certain.
Investigating officer, Unit 6.
Everything's easier behind a mask.
No, we shouldn't have played the Thorn of the Rose. Maybe we'll get some usage out of it next turn, but it's not going to be good here. Right, I didn't stop to think that we're going to do the 1 damage AoE, and it's like, well, he can just block it with the Blade Squire if he's just throwing the units away, or he could get a trade with it if that's what he wants to go for.
I've got the reins.
Okay.
Endless cold, endless
But there's chances for failure here, right? He can attack with some of his ground units to let us get in the Whirling Death. So there's some potential. Non-zero amount of it. We need to play any units here? Not yet. I don't really want to have like the Reckoner soak up the point of damage if we don't have to. Sure. Come on. Incoming quick attacks. You got it. All right. He's attacking with the ground units. That's a good thing for us. So we'll put the Thorn of the Rose down here in front of this quick attacker. That just kind of negates that attack. It's going to die anyways. Then for these other ones, we're going to lose with whatever we block with between the Enraged Yeti and the Savage Reckoner, but the Anivia could survive. So, I mean, I think this piece of it's okay. Let's throw in our Whirling Death. Alright. Definitely had worse boards. There was like an Echo in the mix in there. He just lost a ton of cards. I think we have to hang on to the Shatter. There's like there's a world where we need to like shatter another elusive. Do it like this. We get to keep the Reckoner full. We're trading into the Insightful Investigator. We definitely want to get his card advantage engine off of the board this turn. And then if he kills our Anivia, she should be able to come back next turn. I mean, if he has a burn spell to take her down, I guess that's fine. Like, if he's playing burn spells on the Anivia egg while we're at 4, as opposed to our face, I feel like that's probably a win. Okay. Now we gotta start fading the death rockets. Ew. Ew. Alright. Maybe we're doing it. Maybe we're doing it. As long as they just don't die this turn. We got a really powerful attack next turn. Okay. Why would he target Anivia? Interesting. Let's stun the Jinx. Like, I don't know. Maybe we should be stunning the shield breaker. The thing that's ultimately scary this turn is if he has an overwhelm, or like if he has a might. It's not completely absurd to think he has one, but we should feel pretty safe now. I think we might have taken this one. It's got to fade one card, and then a burn collection of burn spells next turn, but might have done it. Okay. Oh, we are most certainly opening. You're not getting the opportunity to drop a to drop the super mega death rocket. Okay, we'll hook in the 2 weakest ones. This should be enough for a lethal between the Anivia on the first Reckoner, but that's the way we want to go about it. It's the lowest amount of health in front of our overwhelms. Ooh, we got it. I don't feel like we deserve that one, but got it at the end of the day. But remember that with the Sump Workers, right? You can't just leave them out there. You can't. It's too big of a risk. It's such a shitty unit on its own. You really need to be finding these spaces to where you play the Sump Workers kind of like at the end of your opponent's attack token, and then you open with one on your turn. And so it just comes down and immediately flips, and then they're all set for the future. All right. All right. Our expedition trial does not end just yet. Oh, is that incoming traps? All right. Get your butt cheeks ready for squeezing. And so here, we'll hang on to the Stalking Wolf. I want to be able to interact with a Teemo or with a Caitlyn if they have one early. Not amped about hanging on to the Hopeful. It's not spectacular in this deck, though. We don't have a ton of 1-drops to activate him early, but if we end up getting one of these weird draws to where, if we mulligan into a Nivea and an Armored Elephant or something, I want to have, excuse me, another cheap play. Leads with the Teemo. It's only playing one copy. So must feel pretty good to start with it in the opener. Okay. So no worries of burn spells at this point. It's kind of nice. He would have...
Lead the way, book.
Ew.
You've been following me?
The big ol' elusive. We're gonna be too slow on the guile, so let's just go ahead and drop the hopeful. It can block the snow hair if that's what the game is requiring of us, and it can also survive a flashbang if that's something that comes off the top. Okay, well this is going to be our path here. We're kind of beyond the point of LeBlanc being good. We're going to have to start slamming overwhelms in here and hoping that we can outrace this big unit.
There was a little fella asking for me.
Can't really do anything about the Sting Officer. It's probably, from his perspective, it's pretty risky. From our perspective, that would be kind of a disaster if he's just throwing the Sting Officers in front of the Hopefuls. Okay. Okay, so we've got him to 15. It's like my only worry with this is if we should have perhaps played the Thorn of the Rose a little bit earlier. So we would have the Guile for this turn. Good chance he's just going to open on us, but like this is why I would have liked to have the Thorn of the Rose now. This is bad. Like we have to trade with the Chumpwa. Can't just take the hit. Alright, can we ever get around this turn? I mean, we can. Basilisk Rider. No! God damn it. I have like the worst luck as far as these stupid things are concerned. I think we're just done now. If we drop the elephant, we'll have 16 overwhelm. It's not going to be enough. Anivia does less damage. I don't think that guy was going to matter, but I swear I have like the worst luck in terms of how those traps hit. Let's see. The Sejuani for Anivia is an upgrade. I would like to get these cards like Shatter out of our deck, though, and so this feels nice getting rid of the Shatter. For the Wrathful Rider is not great, but it's at least an interactive unit, and let us get some challenges in. All right, next battle. See if we can't recover a little bit. Keep the run gunning. Keep the run gunning. Sure. That's what we're doing here. Alright, Yumi Pantheon. So let's see, what are we going to do here? We're going to try to just get wider than them. I feel pretty decent about Thorn of the Roses here. Like, if we can at least put them in this spot to where they have to be, like, opening on us every turn. Just the threat of, like, a single Guile can stop tons of damage coming from them. But usually more worried about an opener where they start with like the one cost Faded and then play some more play some more like Zenith Blade style turns. Okay, dude's bringing all the values on us. And we'll attack with everybody but the little spider here. Get to clear out this board would feel pretty good. Now we get to start dropping the big booms. Incoming Basilisk Riders, incoming Guiles. It's not unreasonable to think we can't get to like turn 7 and then Guile a couple of units just to shut down his blocks. So not doesn't sound too terrible to me. I think we need to play Thorn of the Rose now. It's a little unfortunate in terms of our curve, but I want to put down a unit that can threaten a trade with the Mountain Goat. Like if we play the Basilisk Rider, he just gets to attack into it. It's a little unfortunate.
Delicate fop.
Okay. I'm looking at the Wrathful Rider now. We can't get 2 units down this turn unless, well, we could play like a unit and a guy and some Guiles, but that doesn't sound very good.
None more feared.
This feels like it's not a winner of a turn, but get to keep building up our board. I don't know. I think I'm kind of like pretty like okay with this going into the like a turn from now to where we play the Wild Claw here, we play the Basilisk Rider, we play the Thorn of the Rose, and then we look to just like double Guile and force him into some bad blocks. It sounds like a pretty reasonable stance to me. Moonglow. Okay. It's been done. Curious why. I mean, I guess just a way to spend some mana. I saw it come down and the animation was a little delayed. I thought we fucking missed again, but we're alright.
She called me betrayer.
Sure. So are we ever going to play like the double Thorn this turn? I don't think we are. So like where do we stand? Let's say like we attack with everybody. We hook the White Flame Protector with our 7/3. It's probably going to fail, right? He seems like the kind of guy that's ready to have a combat trick here. But I think that's okay. Do we still have good attacks otherwise? The Basilisk Rider is going to get blocked by Blinded Mystic. If we play the Trifarian, it'll get blocked by his 4/4. And then where does that leave us? It doesn't feel awesome. But I think we'll still get some reasonable attacks this turn.
Sharp as a thorn.
Let's see if he spends the mana. Interesting. Not they're like, what do you want to behold the infinite into now that you're actually going to put on this board? It feels like a win for us if he tries to do that. I'm still going to do like the Wrathful Rider hook onto the White Flame Protector. I don't think this is going to be successful, but it's going to be what protects our Alpha Wild Claw here. And then if it is successful, then go us. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Ooh, nice. So now we're definitely getting built up to this big turn to where like we can play the Savage Reckoner on this upcoming turn. You can follow up with Demolitionist and Trifarian, stun a couple dudes. Ooh, now we just get to double Reckoner. I dig. Sure. That's not a unit. I did the mathematics on that one. Not a unit you're threatening us with here. Meteor Shower. That's kind of fucked up. At least he's not adding dudes to the board with that. That's all that really matters here, right? We're gonna throw down some stuff. We're gonna stun his stuff, and then we're just gonna attack and and power through. Like he can play all the Zenith Blades and all the go tall things he wants to on this single unit. We're just gonna blast in with the stuns. Do we want to save like the Demolitionist for next turn? Maybe. Let's see how this shakes out here. Let's go ahead and lead off with the Guile. See if he spends a bunch of mana, right? We can just play the Saboteur and punch through for some little damage and then play the Demolitionist on his turn, because he's probably not going to lethalist this like on his upcoming attack, but we'll see.
Eula, will you tell me a pirate? After this is done. You have my
Okay,
word.
I think I like this angle. So we're going to Guile the 3/3. Sure. And then he's going to put his 3/2 in front of our Savage Reckoner. Then he's taking 11 on board, 12 once we do the ping. Should be good enough. Yes, there was a world where he could silence his own unit or something to drop the stun, but doesn't have the manas anymore. Cupcake it. Nice. GG. Ooh, that was it got a little scary there for a while. It's like I want to be in there and attacking and stuff, and we weren't able to do it. But good deal. So what you got for us here? Anivia for Darius. Beautiful, beautiful. Just get a big late game threat. Another Noxus card. Get those. Looked like right as it clicked away, we're down to 4 Freylord at this point. Looks pretty strong. I'm not opposed to, again, like having some Freylord in here. 6 is usually the max that I like. If something like Feel the Rush turns up, I'll be all about it. We need some interactivity, and so if something like Harsh Winds turns up, I'd be pretty excited about it. But getting these kind of just like fillery cards out of here or swapping champions feels pretty good. That's what I've like always talked about in terms of like the Scion bug and what seems to be the Udyr bug, as to where Riot seems to have messed up the kind of recognition of what archetype you're in. I think it's great when you're able to trade the champions, like how we just got to trade Anivia for Darius. It's like the game's a champion-centric game. This isn't Magic to where it's about the factions, right? Magic's all about the colors and the color pairings and all the different things that happen with that. Runeterra is about the champions. It would be like if Magic was just all about playing the Planeswalkers, right? That's just not what it is and not what's going on there. But with this game being, predominantly centered on the champions, it's pretty nice when you get to kind of pick and choose the champion you actually want to be doing battle with. But here we have the option between either playing LeBlanc or playing the Trapper. Playing the Trapper does have its uses in that it helps us draw this Yeti a little bit quicker, but it doesn't threaten as much damage coming in here. This is fine. Also, it gives us the Sigil of Malice to potentially shut down this Jal Hunters next turn. Right, if he's going to try and Jal Hunters over LeBlanc, well, we have a couple of options with it, right? We can just let him do it, and then we can just replay a LeBlanc, which is probably the way to actually go about it. I think I do like this a little bit more. So what's like the most expensive? Okay, I'm going to say we'll play the Trapper now. I want to spend the full 5 mana next turn, and so might as well get the Trapper in our deck. Might actually want to Whirling Death this thing, though. Let's lead with a LeBlanc just in case.
The best lives are beautiful.
It's not like tons of damage, but it's like if he gets to block the Trapper with the Grasp of the Undying, it is like a 6 damage swing. That's annoying. That's double annoying.
For glory, you are mine.
Okay. We got to get this thing off the board. It'll just kind of turbocharge him going deep, and I don't want that happening. We got to get on board before he starts dropping 7/7s. If we're out here playing, 6 mana 6/5s and 7 mana 7/4s, and he's dropping a bunch of 7/7s for 4, it's going to be too tough for us to come back from. Now we have this awkward space. I want to get the Yeti down, but the mana doesn't quite work. Just have to let him draw cards. It's not like I don't know. He's always just going to have more cards than us. We have to be going for the lethals here. Got to get him killed quick before those cards matter. Okay. We can Enraged Yeti, we can Basilisk Rider. I was hoping to save this Whirling Death to just like punch through an Overwhelm attack. I guess it depends on the units that he plays. Oh, jeez. Hunting Fleet. Well, we can Whirling Death it. It should be pretty safe. Gonna keep the Narwhal back. I'm assuming that he's gonna block with the Hunting Fleet, and so we should be able to potentially block the Abyssal Eye next turn. Of course, he can just like play more units and change it up a little bit, but I think this is gonna be okay. And then let's do this. Let's Whirling Death using our Enraged Yeti. So he doesn't have Vengeance mana here, but let's say he had Vengeance mana. We would want him to have to Vengeance the worst unit. But at the end of the day, we got... Oh, well, I guess we miss out on a point of damage that way, don't we? Maybe we should have done it the other way. I just assumed that whatever we're Whirling Death thing's is got to be completely dead. I don't think we're in a space where we can just pass. Let's just go ahead and advertise that we have the Reckoner and see what happens here. Sure, you get to draw a card. How far is he from deep? 2 cards? Easy. Okay. So what do we got here? I kind of want to hang on to the Cot and the Cold in place of the Glory Seeker. Not opposed to trading out the Trapper, but we don't need a 5th Thorn of the Rose, so we'll hang on to it. And then the Shield Breaker's trash, so we'll skip over that one. And so, moving on. So yeah, what world is a card like Trifarian Shieldbreaker going to be constructed playable? This is I'm back on it. I'm back on complaining about cards in being generated for Expedition and generated for limited formats. What? Just come on. Come on. How are you going to make that guy constructed playable? Just relevant at any point in constructed, just like fringe relevant, not even like this is a good card all the time, but this is a card that I've slotted into my best of 3 lineup to challenge a specific deck. Fucking never. I'm tired of them making cards for Expedition. Ugh. If I only got to rule the world and just say how it is. All right, reasonable enough here. What I'm going to be looking to do here is just get him to spend a bunch of mana into this Saga Seeker, and I think we should be able to eventually either just get wider than this, or as he's like trading a spell for a unit. Right, so that we can get to the space to where we put 2 units on the board, and then he has to play a bunch of spells to keep his Saga Seeker alive. It opens up the space for us to get wider, even though he's winning the combats. Or if he says plays Yumi, right, we can now get through this. But we are getting into a pretty good space for this Thorn of the Rose to pop off. I don't know if I want to advertise that we have it just yet. Like the Saga Seeker is not scary at the moment. Right, we can just prevent all its damage with the Spiderling. We're going to have to worry about it as soon as it gets a Zenith Blade. Come on, dude. Come on, dude. Basilisk Rider. This is the second one we've missed. We're down to 4 Freylords now. Okay. Interesting caught in the cold. Not so much in terms of getting a kill this turn, but doing the same thing that we would be getting out of a Thorn of the Rose. And so we could say potentially play like the Demolitionist, play the Stalking Wolf, and play the Caught in the Cold this turn. Then go into next turn. Where does that leave us? Our reputation is at 1. We would just be playing Thorn of the Rose then. Not excited about that. I think we want. Do we want to add the Stalking Wolf regardless? We can do like the similar thing with the Stalking Wolf where we just throw it in front of the Saga Seeker. I think I want to do this. I'm going to get the Thorn of the Rose down. I want to ensure we have this Guile ready for next turn. We do have to start like worrying about our health a little bit. So like I know that we're at 20, but the way that you end up running into problems with these decks is you're just like, oh well, I can block your Saga Seeker over and over and not take damage, or I can take a big 12 hit. I'm not going to die to that, and then you have to deal with the overwhelm hit the following turn. And as it stands, we have a maximum blocker of 3 health across all the cards on our board and all the cards in our hand. And so you do have to pay like a little bit of respect to these dum-dums, even if you don't intend on taking it down. So here I am just going to do the Caught in the Cold. Now the thing we have to be a little bit careful about is he can still boost this, right? He can target it with something and boost its health a little bit. So I'm just looking to hook it with the Basilisk Rider. So we'll see if that's successful here. And then we do have a bit of a struggle in terms of this, like Yordle Squire trading for the Thorn of the Rose. I think I'm okay with just that blocking the LeBlanc and us building up some width here. I think. Not really good at punching damage in like this. Oh, fuck. Okay, well, he's only got 1 mana now. So it has to be like a Purple Berry Shake if he wants to save the Saga Seeker from taking this hit. And that's, kind of choice for us. If we get to chunk it down to 3, it's going to go up to 4 because of Yuumi. And then we have the potential to get a scary block on it. Okay. Okay. Maybe. Did just take a ton of damage, and so we can look at it now in terms of like if we get a stun that shuts down 1 unit, we have the Sigil of Malice to either kill the Yordle Squire or to go face with. And I'm looking to just use the Guile offensively now, not stop this Saga Seeker damage.
Peace is a trail painted with blood for the hand.
That's scary. I mean, it plays into our strategy, but I'm a little worried about the turn after this. Savage Reckoner. That was a beautiful draw. Just a perfect hook onto the Yordle Squire. So we're not going to be playing Guile anymore, right? But the downside here, we attack with everyone. How much is this? 6 damage from the Reckoner through the Squire, 4 damage with the remaining Basilisk Rider. That's okay. Well, let's be real. We can't. There is like a non-zero chance that he doesn't have another unit in his hand. So we should just go ahead and play this Guile, right? It's not going to matter. And it also helps like protect our LeBlanc. So if he has to say like spend 2 mana on a Mountain Goat now, he's not going to get to play like 2 tricks. Maybe he only gets to play 1 trick this way. I think this is okay. Why? Is he going to flip or something? Is he just going for the spell shield? Oh, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that pays off for him. If he hits like spell shield and lifesteal, it's going to be so upsetting. Okay. I like your gusto though, my dude. That's a bold move you made right there. Just going for it. And a stun. That's unfortunate.
Fall as light upon water.
So where do we stand now? Like, we just lost 6 damage off of the Reckoner. We still have to attack. There's no two ways around it. Man, this sucks a lot.
Are you the one? Together, stranger.
Takes him to 6. Okay. Oh, that's so bad. Does he have Scout on Pantheon? He does. Interesting that he didn't kill off his Papercraft Dragon unit. Right, he could have potentially taken us down with it. Are we getting lethal? Get this fucking animation out of here. Taking 12 from the Saga Seeker. Okay. Dang. Oh, the shield vault. He didn't have the stun. Well, I guess it was technically, it was through the Pantheon flip, but that was a brutal one. Could have just gone for it, but man. But all right. Anyways, moving forward, lots of upgrades here. The Tusk Raider and the Alpha Wildclaw are extremely similar units. The Tusk Raider is just better, though, right? He has one less stat, but it's a lot more resilient, and he's in Noxus. And so maybe if we only have 3 Freylord cards, we won't keep missing on our keep missing on our allegiance over and over again. But that's a reasonable upgrade, I think. Hey. Pre-final battle of 0.5. the second half. What do we got here? A Zed, a Lee Sin, and a Yuumi. Alright. Well, I'm going to hang on to the Reckless Trifarian just to make sure we have a cheap unit. I don't feel like Thorn of the Rose is really in that same vein. And if you want a Thorn of the Rose, we probably have a pretty decent chance to draw one by turn 3 or turn 4. And so it's okay. Just play in the claws of the dragon, my dude. My dude, I don't think that's ever been done. Lee Sin's just sitting here hanging out saying, "What's going on? What's going on, my dudes? I'm out here to play the spells, and you're not doing it." No, this is slightly awkward, I guess. It's like we can play the Stalking Wolf and try and bait out the Dragon's Protection, but then we just can't block this turn. Can't run the Trifarian down, or it's just too juicy of a block for him. But this is okay. Play the Trifarian. He's the toughest to block one that we have. And then next turn we should start being able to play 2 units a turn. Come at us, bring them claws. That's an attacker. Is this, it's like an odd space, and like, is this a unit that we're willing to Whirling Death? I mean, I don't think so. We can fall pretty safely to like 16. Let's just take this damage and try and take this down with the Stalking Wolf. I'd rather save the Stalking, or save the Whirling Death for a little bit more of a high value situation.
They'll never see me coming.
Okay. Now the slightly awkward thing here is if we want to get the Whirling Death going, we don't have a smaller unit to do it. But this is fine, I think. The Tusk Raider threatens the tail of the dragon enough. And then if he just passes, I'm fine to just pass. You know, we could Cotton the Colded, I guess. How do we feel about that? Opponent's certainly up to some shenanigans here. I think I do like this. It's like, even if he has a combat trick, it's going to be like really challenging to use it successfully against what we're doing. It's like, does he really want to play a Twin Disciplines to protect the tail of the dragon? Maybe. Apparently, he's all in on this guy. He's excited for his prospects. Okay, then he'll get his 2-1 in front of our 5-1. That's okay. Whimsy. Ah, I see what you're doing. I see what you're all about. Okay, well, if he like comes out and attacks with it this time, I think we're good to just throw the Spiderling in front of it. But we probably have to bank some mana here. It's getting a little sketchy if we don't. Okay. Now that quick will's huge. I think we're still in this space to where we want to save the Guiles for another turn. Where's our thing at? I mean, do we even want to bother with this? Like, I think we have to stop the 8, but we can save the Thorned Blade to try and punch through damage. I think that's fine. The place where this starts to get scary is we can't like overwhelm through all these dudes. Darius. Huh. Darius is a different story. Right, because now we have 8 mana, we can double Guile plus Darius and then Whirling Death something as well. I think the scary thing with this line is we have to have 2 units get through for damage, right? If we want the Darius to flip, and we need our opponent to be small enough, but I think this is okay. Guess we could have also looked to do it in the manner of instead of doing like double Guile plus Whirling Death, just use... No, we didn't have the mana for the Thorned Blade to work.
Here to watch the bloodshed, sir. Here to win the war, soldier. Stand to.
This is going to be lame, I can already tell. I was right.
I'm through waiting.
Alright, well, at least the promising thing on this board is he doesn't have overwhelm units, right? So we can, at the moment, block one of these and just not die. Well, it has to be enough because we only have 1 blocker, but seems reasonable. Curious why he didn't play the Usari.
Here to win the war, soldier. Stand
Huh.
to.
Weird. Alright, so how do we feel about this? We have my ultimate concern here is that we're gonna run into a Will of Ionia or some kind of bounce spell or a mini morph or something, and our lone overwhelm unit is going to get taken down. And so I want to make sure that we have 2. Now I feel a little bit better about this. We can attack with all of these. We can hook this guy down here. It's not quite lethal, but it gives us an idea as to where opponent might play a card. And now we can either Whirling Death or we can Thorned Blade and try and get through this. There's the mini morph, yep. Still lethal, get your Z in there. Then we'll use the Thorned Blade. I guess, well, it's not going to matter. It's like all of our units are going to be dead next turn anyways if this doesn't work. But I was kind of thinking in my head we might want the Whirling Death to play on one of his things. But cool. GG. We won. Victory for Team Bust. Alright, so what are we doing here? I'd rather have House Spiders than the Hopefuls. I'm not opposed to trading out the Demolitionist for the Tusk Raider. It's just like our weakest 2-drop. I think that's fine. Well, we already have 3 Tusk Raiders. Maybe we'll stay away from that. We have 3 Tusk Raiders and a Darius with 2 Savage Reckoners. Yeah, that's enough. And then I want the Thorned Blade. Well, I don't want the Thorned Blade, but we only have 5 spells. We need some interactivity. That's where we're really hurting here. None of this helps in those terms. We have enough expensive cards. Don't want to trade out our spell. With these, like, that's tough, right? I guess we can pick up the Whirling Death for the Basilisk Rider, but like we're just hurting for the interactivity, and trading away Stalking Wolves really hurts, but I would rather have the rear guard. But I think we have to pick up the Whirling Death out of this. Here, don't want the Rider, and then don't want the expensives or the cheaps, so we'll skip over that. And our last one. Same deal. You know, we don't need the Tusk Raiders. I don't want to trade out our interactivity. I mean, the Ruthless Raider might be an upgrade over the Thorn of the Rose. I mean, do we have 4? But kind of like these like Guile turns we've been able to build up. I'm going to skip over that one as well. All right, off we go. See if we can't take him down. Noxus on Noxus action. Strike that. Hot Noxus on Noxus action. Let's see. Let's see what happens here. Little worrisome, but it's odd when they have like 2 Rivens. The cards that I worry about are the quick attack challenges. We don't have any way to deal with it, and that's what you could commonly see out of like the Rivens. But we'll see. We did just pick up our Reckoning. We haven't had the chance to cast it, but that could be quite powerful in this matchup. Okay, more than willing to trade our 2/2 for his 5/2 if he wants to oblige so kindly. Let's see if he opens. That would be great. This is our like not a turn where we really want to drop LeBlanc.
For the Empire. Okay, ready.
Okay, reasonable enough. Now we can add LeBlanc. Should be pretty tough for him to get a block. Like, this Hopeful is going to shut down everything that we have. Now we have to ask the question, do we want to deal with the Riven Sword? I don't think so. Let's just pass and see if we can't get a Reckoning next turn. Like, this could be really, really premium if he, like, plays a random 3/3 for 3 or something here, and then we get to Reckoning everything but his Hopeful. But it's like if we attack, he gets to prevent the damage with the Blade Squire, and then have all the tools to make the Riven Fragment, the Riven Sword, and she can get a little out of hand. So we will not be getting a Reckoning. Not this turn. Alright, this does not look good. We will have like the Sigil of Malice to play in the middle of combat, but we are about to get boomed.
I know my purpose.
Okay, still have 4 mana left over after the Basilisk Rider. It's odd that he put the +2 attack onto the Blade Squire. Oh, and he just doesn't attack with Riven? Oh, man. Interesting. Why? Guess he was worried about a Whirling Death or something? Okay. I hear you, dog.
Explosives primed.
Alright, we're gonna drop the Saboteur, see if we can't get them to spend some mana, and then bring in the Wrathful Rider. This is more than fine if he's trying to play to a Whirling Death. Right, because now he has to Whirling Death the Wrathful Rider if he wants to protect his Riven. 2 Whirling Deaths? Sure. So we hit for 8, 10, 11. Alright, so I think we might be okay. The thing we have to shoot for now is getting a Guile onto Riven. Or at least when you play the Thorn of the Rose, it makes him immediately react. So I think he'll play a card, we'll play the Guile, and then he has to attack. Still pretty scary though. If he plays Armored Elephant, we don't really have enough stats to put in front of it. Darius. Joyous. So, can he overwhelm us down enough to get the Darius kill? It doesn't look like it, unless he has a combat trick. Do we ever just drop our Darius to throw in front of his? I think we have to. It at least gives us the option to see what he's going to do. Right, if he, hits with Riven. Okay. So the most we should have to worry about coming out of her... Oh, that's so much. Fuck. Alright, is what it is, I guess. How do we feel about this? I don't want to fall to 2. Let's put this unit down. Now, we can get killed like a Decimate or get killed by a Noxus Blast. And I think we can just live with that. But because the new question is how do we win the game next turn? And we have to have these overwhelms to do it with. I guess we could look at it what if we do this? Where does that stand? Goes to 1. That's not enough.
Not so fast.
Is this 4? Okay, I think I can get behind the 4. If he has the Decimate, we die. This lets us play around Noxus Blast, so there's the weapon hilt. Yep. That was the big one to avoid, was the 2 damage that could come out of weapon hilt. Okay. So now we have 8. So we can either play the Savage Reckoner, or we can play Thorn of the Rose, Wrathful Rider, and a stun. And I like the Wrathful Rider angle here. Lets us shut down 2 units. It's just we're a little bit short. Well, the Savage Reckoner. It's how much time do we want to give them? And this feels safer. I don't know. I have to start worrying about the Whirling Death style cards now. There's definitely a lot that can go wrong here, but I think I like the Wrathful Rider plus the Thorn of the Rose plus the Guile. Because if his plays here is going to be Armored Elephant, then it gets us in a much safer space. Interesting. Plays the Blade's Edge. Oof. Get there, LeBlanc deck. You are the more strong of the champions. We show the Riven how it's done. Oh, GG. And so, yeah, that was an interesting deck. We didn't really get any of the combos together that makes this deck function, which is, I think, why the Riven deck is, stronger more often, right? There's just so much going for Riven. I really don't like how they've set up the Riven in Expedition as to where there's 4 separate copies of Riven, right? And so in order to get a good Riven deck, you can carry yourself a long way by just taking every card in it that says Reforge on it. And then there's 4 separate Riven buckets, and then you can also find the Reforge cards in Scrap Heap, and they might be in one other archetype as well. And so it's pretty easy for you to go and pick up those Reforge cards as, a synergy pick comes up, and you have 2 and 3 Riven buckets showing up at the same time. And so it's just so much easier to get the decks for her together. like I would understand it and be okay with it if they were out here like curating the archetypes, and then they're like, oh well, the Pool Party Riven skin's about to come out, so we're going to push an extra archetype forward, and then like 2 months down the road, they pull one of the archetypes back, and they're like, "Oh man, we're now releasing the skin pack for this other champion, so we're going to push another archetype forward, so more people are playing it." Like, I get it, I'm 100% okay with that, but without like the curation going on, it's just a little absurd that there's so many Rivens, there's so many Shyvanas running around. And so, it is what it is. We've got like 4 more of these trials. I don't really care at this point, but I do miss the days when that kind of curation was happening. And where this is kind of going is, in terms of playing LeBlanc, you need like a specific set of cards to show up for her to be like the really, hey, I'm going to pop this off to an easy 7 wins. That basically involves having Shurima show up, but you don't necessarily want like Sivir to show up. The Sivir archetype's kind of turdy. You're looking for the Slayer's Nasus, or you're looking for the Challenger Renekton. And then on top of that, we did talk quite a bit about the 5 attack matters things and being in Freylord and getting quick attack challenges and frostbite challenges and the like. That's the other kind of thing that you can pull off. That's what we were trying to do with this one, but the cards didn't quite come together. And so to kind of like go full circle with the Riven rant, Riven's cards are all within the singular archetype, or within the singular faction. They're spread out across like 6 archetypes, to whereas with LeBlanc, there's 2 archetypes, and she needs to be paired into other factions to kind of unlock all of her powers. And so it's a little unfortunate that that's, balanced how it is, but that's the way life goes. But nonetheless, to cycle back to what we're doing with LeBlanc here, you're looking for her to just be a really aggressive Noxus deck, right? That's what we were able to come in and assemble here. You want a really heavy collection of 1s and 2s and 3s. You want to be spending your first like 6 or 8 mana all on units, and then you're trying to be as aggressive as possible. The kind of side strategies to that are the things we were ranting about, and picking up the vulnerables so you can get quick attack challenges, picking up Legion Drummers so you can get quick attack challenges with your non-LeBlanc challengers, trying to find Frostbites so that your challengers can survive attacks, and then trying to find things like Yetis so you have a cheap way to get into the 5 attack matters kind of themes. Those are the kind of side things that really push your deck from being like a 3 or 4 winner to a 7 winner. But we did talk about her archetype and the strengths in it. Has a really strong early game, really strong mid game, really strong late game. Has all the interactivity in it, and there's no real weaknesses within the Brutality Kindred archetype itself. And so it's good enough to carry you around to a 7 on an average day. Just not putting together those decks to where you're just going to annihilate everyone that you play. Those are our favorite ones. Give us these draws to where we start with the Legion Rearguard, play a 5 attack unit on 2, and follow up with LeBlanc. Just smash. I love it so much. One of my favorite things to be doing. But nonetheless, that is going to do it for us today. I don't think we have any rewards to click on, and so that will do it. Hope everyone enjoyed the trial. You increased your reputation for LeBlanc just a little bit. Maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.